JCI celebrated 101 years since its inception as a worldwide membership-based nonprofit organization of young, active citizens ages 18 to 40, dedicated to creating positive change, with alumni that include John Fitzgerald Kennedy, Kofi Annan, Bill Clinton, and many more. Today, JCI oversees projects in more than 5,000 communities across nearly 120 countries, with members seeking targeted solutions to local problems to create a sustainable global impact. Youmna Naufal has the exclusive with Mr. Paschal Dike, the 2016 JCI president.
Thank you for tuning in. We have the pleasure to welcome in our studios today the president of JCI, Mr. Paschal Dike. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
JCI is a worldwide membership-based nonprofit organization of young, active citizens ages 18 to 40, dedicated to creating positive change. Through projects in more than 5,000 communities across nearly 120 countries, members seek targeted solutions to local problems to create a sustainable global impact. And this year, JCI Worldwide celebrates 101 years of impact since 1954. 101 years.
101 years, yes, since JCI started in the city of St. Louis, Missouri.
St. Louis, Missouri, that's true, that's where it started. But JCI Lebanon has 3 chapters, JCI Beirut, JCI Sidon, and JCI AUB.
Correct.
And JCI Beirut was the first chapter to start 10 years ago.
You're right.
So in the last 10 years, what were the biggest achievements in Lebanon?
Thank you very much. Basically, what we do as young people, it's encapsulated in the mission of JCI. The mission of JCI is to provide development opportunities that empower young people to create positive change. So basically, whether it is in Lebanon or in Nigeria or in Japan, wherever JCI members are present, what they try to do is to identify young people who are passionate, provide them necessary skills, exposures, hands-on, to be able to improve themselves and by extension identify problems and challenges in the communities, and like you said, formulate targeted solutions towards addressing them. So therefore, right here in Lebanon for the past 10 years, what JCI Lebanon, particularly JCI Beirut, has focused on doing is to empower young people. First, it could be empowerment to ensure that we have the right set of entrepreneurs who understand that they have to find solutions around challenges and turn them into wealth or business. We also focus on training people for personal development.
When you say training people, how does it work? Do you have training centers, or is it the different networks? So for example, somebody in Beirut can connect to somebody in Nigeria, for example, and they can exchange ideas. So how does it worok exactly? Because it's a big community.
The beauty of the organization is our network is presently in 126 countries. And like you mentioned, in 5,000 communities. We have different events in different parts of the world every year. So people and JCI members from Lebanon can travel to Nigeria, can travel to Japan, can travel to the US or to Tunisia, whatever the event is. And we have training programs tailored and designed for JCI members. So when they go to such events, they take part in these trainings and then they come back to their countries and try to share that with other members. So yes, we have training centers in some countries, but basically JCI also has what we call the Skills Development Unit, where we develop trainings that addresses the needs of our members and the needs of other young people in different parts of the world.
Right, you talk about the skill development unit.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm guessing every single country or every single community has different skills that you need to hone.
Definitely.
So when you think of Lebanon specifically, and I'm sure when people think about Lebanon, they cannot but take into account the turmoil that the country is facing with neighboring wars,
Correct.
and as well as a lot of younger people being disenchanted, feeling discouraged because of the situation. So how do you decide, okay, these are the skills I want to work on with the Lebanese youth, and what are they?
Thank you. We have what we call the JCI Active Citizens Framework. It's a framework which helps us identify the needs and the challenges that exist in different communities. So what we do first is deploy these needs to understand if the need in the community is unemployment, or if it's something that has to do with empowerment, or has to do with education, or has to do with health. And then when we identify what the needs are, we formulate solutions and then look for partners who can work with us, deploy those solutions, do an evaluation to see if the solution is sustainable. So that is a framework that's been adopted by a lot of other international organizations, but it's our framework that we designed and developed. So that helps us identify what the needs are. What the need is in Lagos, where I live, might not be the need in Beirut. So that helps us to identify targeted needs and be able to formulate targeted solutions to them.
As president of JCI, for 2016.
Yes.
you've traveled to different countries.
Correct.
And you've probably met different youth.
Yes.
How can you compare what we have in Lebanon compared to other countries or other communities?
Beautiful. This is my 55th country this year traveling to.
All right.
And like you said, the needs are quite different.
Only 55?
55, I'm still traveling.
Oh my God. You didn't do the 126?
I'm still traveling.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that energy to do that in 1 year. But the beautiful thing is...
You're ending it on a good note this year, right? Is this the last
exactly.
country of the year?
No, I still have about 5 more countries to do, and then I'm going to close it out.
Okay.
Now, basically, we've seen that the needs of young people are different in different countries. This year we initiated a campaign we call Peace is Possible campaign, and it's a campaign we're taking to different parts of the world, particularly where there are challenges and conflicts and crises. And of course, the neighboring countries around Lebanon, of course, you know what is happening. And we've taken that message to tell young people
the Syrian refugee influx is affecting a lot of young people.
We must see what we can do to be able to help the situation. And one of the things we've done is we'll go to some of these refugee camps to be able to teach young people, okay, to be able to be hopeful for the future. Some of them are out of school because of the conflict. So what do? We'll try to get people to go there to teach them so they don't lose completely. We'll try to provide, clothing materials, food materials, support shelter.
As president of JCI for 2016,
yes,
you've traveled to different countries.
Correct.
And you've probably met different youth.
Yes.
How can you compare what we have in Lebanon compared to other countries or other communities?
Beautiful. This is my 55th country this year traveling to.
All right.
And like you said, the needs are quite different.
Only 55?
55, I'm still traveling.
Oh my God. You didn't do the 126?
I'm still traveling.
Yeah.
I don't think I have that energy to do that in 1 year. But the beautiful thing is...
You're ending it on a good note this year, right? Is this the last country of the year?
No, I still have about 5 more countries to do, and then I'm going to close it out.
Okay.
Now, basically, we've seen that the needs of young people are different in different countries. This year we initiated a campaign we call Peace is Possible campaign, and it's a campaign we're taking to different parts of the world, particularly where there are challenges and conflicts and crises. And of course, the neighboring countries around Lebanon, of course, you know what is happening. And we've taken that message to tell young people
the Syrian refugee influx is affecting a lot of young people.
We must see what we can do to be able to help the situation. And one of the things we've done is we'll go to some of these refugee camps to be able to teach young people, okay, to be able to be hopeful for the future. Some of them are out of school because of the conflict. So what do? We'll try to get people to go there to teach them so they don't lose completely. We'll try to provide, clothing materials, food materials, support shelter, and all of that.
Have you worked, I know that JCI has partnered with a few Lebanese, it's been sponsored, but it's also partnered with a few Lebanese stakeholders in order to help out. Can you mention a few? Have you worked with any of the ministries, for example?
There are a number of ministries that's been worked, but that's something that's happening here in Lebanon. And since, I'm not a member of JCI in Lebanon, I don't have those specifics.
All right,
but there are quite of them.
We'll get the president of JCI Lebanon
definitely
soon.
to do that. But I know we'll have a number of partnerships that are running already right here. And part of the reasons why I'm here is to meet some of these partners also to see how we can strengthen the relationship. So together we can see that our joint effort can produce the desired results. And going back to the campaign I talked about, what we have tried to do is to educate young people to understand that in the future, they will have responsibilities to lead countries, to lead communities.
They're the generation. They're the future. They are the future.
And we're sending that message to say we must lead differently. We must act differently. We must lead in such a way that will ensure peace and sustainability and prosperity. And that's what we're trying to do this year, to begin to do some kind of reorientation, to change the mindset and the thinking of the young people, to understand that the future that we talk about is today. And we must take that future with our two hands. And the way to do that is to work in such a way that we can guarantee that future.
It's so interesting that you mentioned future. when we think about today and the generation of today, we think of millennials, and they have it very different than, JCI alumni like Mr. Kofi Annan.
I agree.
John F. Kennedy,
Correct.
Bill Clinton.
Sure.
So a lot of important people, important figures in history have been alumni of JCI. And, when you think about millennials today and the fourth industrial revolution, which is basically this digital age we live in,
yes,
are the needs different today than they were before?
They're quite different, believe me. Because the truth, even today, the way you communicate to someone who is between 15, for example, and 35, is not the same way you communicate to someone who is 70 or 80 years. Their understanding and perception are quite different.
How do you basically complete that gap?
Yeah, that's the point. Right now, we are trying to focus on what is it that attracts the millennials, and how can we ensure that the message we send out there makes meaning to them. And therefore, sometimes instead of sitting there and waiting for the millennials to come, you have to walk into their space, because if you walk into that space, then they understand exactly what you're bringing to the table. So the whole idea is to see what do they think, what are the attractions, and then come up with projects and activities that revolve around those attractions, and then to be able to get them to understand and appreciate the message that you're sending across. So we are doing that, and that's our focus, because JCI age bracket is also around the millennial age bracket. And whether we like it or not, that is where the future is, and that is where the future is heading, and we'll have to do something to ensure that we accommodate them in the present dispensation.
Mr. Dike, what would be your message for the end of 2016, even though you still have a few countries to go to? Because this is December, and you are finishing it
yes, in about
on a
3 weeks.
Lebanese note.
Yes. My message to young people, it's very simple. This year I chose the theme, Just Act. And that is a message to young people that it is time for us to stop talking and start doing. It's time for us to stop complaining and start contributing. It's time for us to stop thinking too much, but feel. And because when you feel, you understand what people go through, you understand their situations and circumstances, and then you can actually feel like you want to change something about that situation. And the truth is, if we talk about the future belongs to the young people. We have been told severally that the young people are the leaders of tomorrow. No, we are the leaders of today, because if we don't get involved, then we'll never get involved in the future.
You have to start somewhere.
So, this is a time for us to take our future into our hands by becoming active citizens, getting involved in civic duties and responsibilities, seeing development in the country and around us as our business and not their business, and then be able to see that it is what we do today that guarantees the future or jeopardizes it. So I say to young people, this is time for us to step up and be able to be part of that building process, to change our communities, to change our countries. And one platform that can help every young person achieve that is JCI. I'm a living example, 19 years of my life in JCI, and I can tell to every young person out there, get involved in JCI. It changes who you are, and it helps you change your community, and it helps you change your country.
All right.
And we can do that together.
Okay, thank you so much for that inspiring message, and a good way to end this, these last few trips that you have.
Thank you.
So thank you for being with us. That was Mr. Paschal Dike, the president of JCI, talking about 101 years and how you can get involved. Thank you for tuning in.